stopped. I says, I knocked on the door. I'd see if he didn't answer me. I pushed the door in there. He was laying half dead on the bathroom floor from an overdose. I was panicking. What can I do? I called an ambulance. The ambulance came with a policeman. They found the needle. They found the evidence. They put him back in jail again, where he's now again in jail.
There are only 3 institutions in the United States devoted to the treatment of drug addiction. 2 of these are the excellent federal hospitals in Lexington, Kentucky and Fort Worth, Texas. The 3rd hospital is in New York City and is exclusively for addicts under 21. Statistically, the great majority of patients leaving these hospitals soon revert to drugs. And yet the statistics do not tell the whole story. They do not reveal the almost complete absence of follow-up facilities. They do not tell about the pressures placed upon the addict, both from without and within. And because they are statistics, they deal in absolutes of success or failure, ignoring the innumerable shadings in between. To convey a sense of these shadings and of the complexity of the addict himself and his treatment, we present a case history, the story of one boy, told by the people who know him, and finally by the boy himself. These are not actors, but the actual people involved.
My name is Mike. I'm an addict and have been one for 15 years. I guess that makes me something of an expert on drugs. I used to think so. This is the story of Freddie. Freddie is a buddy of mine. He's a much younger guy than I am, and it's much more important to tell his story than mine because of the kids today. So much of them are on this stuff. Freddie was about 19 when he started using junk. Like all junkies, he thought he was going to keep it a big secret. But it wasn't long until his mother found out.
I found out, the first time I found out, he came home, he says, Mama, I need $3. It's a friend of mine on the door. I borrowed money from him and I gotta pay it back. I gave him $3. I didn't look who it was. I sat down and watched television, and I watched my son sitting on the chair. His eyes turned, his whole face turned white as a ghost. I kept looking and looking. I couldn't believe it. I said to him, Freddie, are you using drugs? Oh, no, he says, but I knew all the while he never had money, never had money. I always had to give him money. How can I do it? I have a family support. I'm the only one that's working in the family. My husband is sick. And it was an awful shock to me to face this. I used to go around in days thinking, why? Why have I done wrong to my son that he does anything like that?
That's the way it is for the family of an addict. And that's the way it went for about a year. Freddie finally agreed, after some not-so-gentle persuasion, to make an attempt at not using drugs. He went to Riverside Hospital. Riverside is on an island in the East River, and it is the only hospital in the country set up just to handle junkies under 21. The first thing they do at Riverside is get rid of the addict's physical dependence on drugs. That's the easy part. The hard part is helping him so that he wants to stay off.
Okay, keep going over and under, over and under. Can you get it, Tom? Okay. Okay, sir. This is Public School 619 of Riverside Hospital. My name is Judd Axelbank, and I am in charge of the general shop in the school.
This is not a very conventional school, but then again, drug addiction is not a very conventional problem. Most of these children have started on drugs when they were 16 or so, many even younger. Their lives have been so limited as simply to create an interest in the kinds of activities that are part of normal, healthy living. We concentrate more on activities of various kinds rather than on formal academic studies. It's not enough to take away heroin. You have to replace it with something else. And that was the problem with Fred, too. I remember when I first met him during his first stay here. He was with a group of new patients with whom I was discussing the hospital program and the school program. He asked a few questions about cabinet making and woodworking, and he seemed to be a pretty bright boy. And yet I got the feeling that there was a lot of hostility and that he was on the defensive. In spite of the fact that I thought he would become interested in the shop, he never did show up for any work. Like so many of the other kids, I guess, at that time, his sole interest was to get out and to go back on drugs.
He was there for 3 months. He came home. He was home a week. He started writing again. I couldn't understand it. This time for sure, I don't want him back home again. I don't want him anymore. I'm going to run away. It's a terrible feeling for any mother to face a thing like that when you struggle all your life to bring up your children right, which I did, and all of a sudden they go just like that. Well, Freddie went back the second time in Riverside Hospital, and he stood there for 2 months, and he didn't finish his 2 months. One night, him and another boy, they took a rubber tube, they swam the river, the East River, just to get the drugs again. He came home with his hospital clothes on at 2 o'clock in the morning. He got all dressed up. I said to him, "What are you doing home? You're not supposed to be home. You're supposed to be in the hospital." He says, "Shh, don't say nothing, Mom." And he got all dressed up and he went out. That's the last time I seen him again. The next day, he got picked up again.
Freddie was on the outside for 1 day and 1 shot. Right after he got his fix, a cop came along and found him with the works. A needle and eye drop are used for injecting heroin. That's a misdemeanor. He wound up going to prison for 3 months. The same day he finished his stretch, the parole officer sent him back to Riverside again, for the 3rd time in less than a year.
My name is Leo Gold. I'm a psychologist at Riverside Hospital. Fred was assigned as one of my patients during his 3rd trip here. In the beginning, he apparently didn't feel comfortable enough to do much talking. And on my part, I didn't want to alienate him by pressing too hard. So our early sessions consisted mostly of silence and waiting.
During his 3rd trip here, I ran into Fred a few times in the hall, and I asked him to come into the shop. One day, he decided to give me a break. He came into the shop, and I set him to working on the wood lathe. This lathe is a good place to start off because you can see something happen fairly quickly, and this gives the boy a feeling of accomplishment and success, a feeling which he needs very, very much. Well, Fred began to work, and he did surprisingly well. He had a real talent. He began to come to the shop regularly, and in a few weeks, he became quite a good craftsman. I noticed also that he seemed to be a lot more relaxed and at ease. I have one of the pieces of work that he made. I don't know if you can see all of the details, but it's really a fine piece of work.
Soon after Fred began working in the shop, our relationship improved. He started to open up a little, to talk about himself, his problems and his feelings. And I began to get a picture of what he was like, a picture not very different from most of the boys and girls who come here. We look upon drug addiction as a symptom of emotional disorder, plus an accident. The accident being exposure to drugs, usually through in the neighborhood.
He used to tell me, Mom, I know what I'm doing. Don't tell me what to do. That's the answer he gave me. I didn't know his friends. And I think that was his downfall, those boys. They used to go in pool room, they shoot dice, that I know. And that's how he started on marijuana.
Underneath the addiction, there is always a troubled person whose world is one of hopelessness, futility, and rejection. A world from which narcotics offers the illusion of escape and in which the companionship of other addicts provides an illusion of belonging. This is what makes the treatment of the drug addict such a difficult, long-term process. These were some of the things that Fred and I explored during our talks together. And by the time he left Riverside, I felt he had made considerable progress. I would have liked him to stay longer, but he was so insistent about getting back on the outside that despite some misgivings, we let him go.
The first day he came out, he started using drugs again. Only the first night. After 4 months, he never touched the stuff anymore. He was happy. I seen progress, and I was happy myself the way he's been going along. I said, thank God he's finished his drugs.
For Freddie to stop using drugs on his own, after having started again, was a tremendous triumph. And he continued trying to make an adjustment. After the first discouraging month, he managed to get himself a job. Meanwhile, he saw me regularly at our aftercare clinic, and he also began attending meetings of a group called Narcotics Anonymous.
Good evening, everyone. This is the regular Wednesday night open meeting for Narcotics Anonymous.
Patterned after Alcoholics Anonymous, this is one of the very few places where the addict is accepted and understood, and where he can gain encouragement from the examples and experiences of other addicts who are trying to stay off drugs.
And now I'd like to turn the meeting over to our chairman.
Well, I got another 24 hours under my belt, and I'm clean for a change, and I'm sober, and I got a job, and I'm no big deal. And I didn't do this alone. I couldn't do it alone. Today, because of this program, and because of some very fine, decent, warm people who gave me friendship and a hand, nothing material necessarily, I'm here tonight, and I am clean. This is important, and this is what I'm grateful for right here and now. Jack, how about you?
Mike, fellow members, I'd just like to say that I've been using narcotics for 20 years. It's taken me quite a good bit of that time to come to my senses and come to a realization. I've been in and out of the can quite a few times, and I still couldn't find out what was driving me back. Now I think that through the help that I've found through the psychiatrist in Lexington, through the opinions and the experiences of other people in this group, that I've come to learn how to use my brain. I've come to awareness of the fact that I can't ram my head through a stone wall. And I think that's the only way that anybody can help themselves and get off of drugs. They've got to come to that realization. They've got to make the decision for themselves.
We give up our whole life, our friends, everything. These few days or weeks that I've been off, it's a strange, wonderful thing to wake up in the morning and smell the air like it really is, and take a walk in the street and just think people the way they should be seen and not through a fog or a haze or a mist. And that's the way it is with stuff. It's like reflections. It's not real.
There comes a point in the addict's life after the pressures and so forth forces him to. He stops and thinks, if he can think. And if he can think, he'll come up with, well, this is getting, start searching for a way. finding the way out. For one addict by himself to just come up and find that way out, it's almost an impossibility. This group, Addicts Anonymous, is one way out as I see it.
I got to know Freddie pretty well through the Narcotics Anonymous program. He didn't dig the program at first. I don't think a lot of us did either, but he kept coming around, and this way he stayed clean. He stayed clean for about 4 months. This I know. Then one day, Freddie disappeared. We checked with his mother and found out he'd been back on junk again. He got busted, arrested, and this time he got 6 months. The day before they sent him away to prison, I visited Fred at the detention house, the old Raymond Street jail in Brooklyn, a place I know quite well. I was curious about what had gone wrong, and also wanted to let him know that we needed him, and that we loved him, and that we were behind him all the way. Hi, Freddie.
Hello, Mike.
I hear you bought yourself some time, huh?
Well, it's not the first time, but I hope it'll be the last.
What did you get?
6 months.
How do you feel about it?
Well, it's not the first time I've been away. It's getting so it's a routine now. But I hope to break this routine. I thought I was doing pretty good. I was off drugs for about 3 months. And I was trying to take things at a slow pace, just like my doctor told me. And not to rush things. And I thought I was doing pretty good. But I slipped.
You what?
I slipped.
You slipped?
Yes. And I guess I wanted to slip. I felt... well, I was working anyway. And I didn't think, you know, I didn't want no more of it. I didn't feel that, you know, I wanted to get up in the mornings anymore and go to a job where it wasn't paying much and the everyday struggle.
You get tired of the job, getting up in the morning.
Yeah. Tired of that everyday routine.
It was a real drag.
Mm-hmm. But everybody's doing it. But I can't do it. That's
I know, we hear this all the time. Everybody else is doing it. Everybody's got problems.
Mm-hmm.
But they ain't like ours.
No.
Ours are bigger and better.
Yeah.
And we're going to enjoy them.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. But you really don't enjoy them.
No, you don't.
No.
Remember how hard you tried to get the job?
Yeah. I remember the first month I left the hospital. I couldn't get no kind of work. And I felt bad. I was even talking about committing suicide, too.
Yeah, you've done this before.
Yes. I wanted to commit suicide. That's me, you see. I'm a pessimist. I see nothing in front of me, nothing clear. Everything is blocked, everything is cloudy. I don't feel that anything will turn out right for me. And, I don't know.
Well, look, you bought your bit, you're going to serve it. How do you feel about it?
I really believe I've had it. I don't like this life no more than anybody else does. Going in, going out, going in, coming out. It's not for me. It isn't the bid that's bothering me. It's not the little amount of time that I have to do. It's that I'm doing it for something that I don't want to be. In other words, using drugs. I don't want to use drugs. No more than any other addict wants to use drugs. They don't want to use drugs.
Did you like it?
In the beginning, it's... Well, I did like it.
Why?
I guess it made me feel comfortable. I always felt inadequate towards myself, towards other people. That I don't... It was hard for me to socialize, get friends. And a drug addict really don't want to use drugs, but he knows what it is. He's had that first shot, and that compulsion is hard to keep away from.
You don't want to be an addict and a junkie, huh?
That's right.
You had it?
I had it.
How about trying it our way?
It's exactly what I'm going to do.
And you know we're going to serve this with you?
I need somebody.
Every stinking day of it?
I need somebody. It's too big for me to handle. It's too big for any addict to handle. It's just like I said, they can't do it alone.
No, you can't.
No, he needs somebody. A drug addict is not strong enough. He needs somebody to hang on to. Somebody, something, someone to hang on to. Either it's a hobby, job, a girl, a wife. He needs somebody to hang on to because he cannot do it alone. That's the only way you can do it. And just like I said, I really didn't try hard enough. But this time I'm going to try.
And you're not worried about the bit?
No.
And the monkey's going to still be there when you come
I'm waiting at the door. That's what I'm worried about.
You're worried about
Oh,
this?
yes.
You know, you don't have to. You don't. Trust us. Trust us so we can trust ourselves again, too. So that's Fred's story. At least up to this point of his life. I don't know whether you'd call it a success story, but the way I look at it, it's not a story of failure either, even though he is on his way to prison. I guess it depends on which you consider more important. The fact that he went back on drugs again, or the fact that he stayed clean for 4 months. To me, the 4 months is more important. In the world outside, most junkies don't get any help at all. Fred got a little. And if his means anything, it means that help does make a difference. And prison is neither the answer nor the end.
Next week at this time, we will examine some of the broader aspects of the problem of drug addiction as we continue with The Addicted, Part 2, Criminal or Patient. This is Walter Cronkite reporting for the 20th Century.